My next topic is connected to the fact that I found stereotypes to be way too common and obviously toxic. And as I said, I would like to focus on the He for She campaign. The He for She campaign is actually a United Nations campaign for gender equality. I actually don't like the name of the campaign, and I'd like to explain why. When I see He for She, I'm thinking, well, first, I don't need a man to fight for my rights. I can do it myself. In addition, He for She, does it mean that I cannot fight for other women's rights? As a woman, I can't fight for other women's rights, meaning there is no She for She, for instance. And also, let's think about people who are transgender. Where do they stand? The he, the she, if their sexual identity is not clear to themselves, this type of title might be a bit confusing. And also, I wonder, how about she for he? Let me explain a little bit more about that. For me, I don't think that it's just a matter of women's rights, but actually of men's rights as well. And this point is actually well covered by Emma Watson, who launched the campaign He for She. She is indeed an ambassador for United Nations Women. So I'd like you to watch part of her speech, and please be reminded that you have questions on your worksheet.
Gender equality is your issue too. Because to date, I've seen my father's role as a parent being valued less by society, despite my needing his presence as a child as much as my mother's. I've seen young men suffering from mental illness, unable to ask for help, for fear it would make them less of a man or less of a man. In fact, in the UK, suicide is the biggest killer of men between 20 to 49, eclipsing road accidents, cancer, and coronary heart disease. I've seen men made fragile and insecure by a distorted sense of what constitutes male success. Men don't have the benefits of equality either. We don't often talk about men being imprisoned by gender stereotypes, but I can see that they are, and that when they are free, things will change for women as a natural consequence. If men don't have to be aggressive in order to be accepted, women won't feel compelled to be submissive. If men don't have to control, women won't have to be controlled. Both men and women should feel free to be sensitive. Both men and women should feel free to be strong. It is time that we all perceive gender on a spectrum instead of two sets of opposing ideals. If we stop defining each other by what we are not and start defining ourselves by who we are, we can all be freer. And this is what He for She is about. It's about freedom. I want men to take up this mantle so that their daughters, sisters, and mothers can be free from prejudice, but also so that their sons have permission to be vulnerable and human too. Reclaim those parts of themselves they abandoned, and in doing so, be a more true and complete version of themselves. You might be...
Let me go over the questions you had to answer on your worksheet, because I'd like you to focus more on what she's saying than getting the right answer so that you can discuss in class with your classmates. And I would like to first apologize. There is a mistake here in the slide. There should be an S, right? So Emma Watson's speech. My first question was, how important is the role of a father compared to that of a mother? And according to Emma Watson, the role of a father is less valued. It means less important than the role of a mother. And yet, as she says, and again I see it with my two nieces, a father is as needed as a mother. The second question was, why don't young men suffering from mental illness ask for help? Well, they don't ask for help because they're afraid that they will be seen as less than a man, meaning that they will be seen as weak, that real men don't have mental illnesses. But as Emma Watson said, actually, mental illnesses are a big problem. She gives the example of the UK and says that it is the highest cause of death for 20 to 49-year-old men through suicide, right? So mental illnesses lead 20 to 49-year-old men to commit suicide. So it is indeed a big problem. But because of the stereotype of a man is strong, they don't ask for help. The third question was, what has made some men fragile, which means not strong, and insecure, which means not confident? Well, according to Emma Watson, it is the definition of male success. What makes a man successful? And that standard is sometimes hurtful for some men who may not have the same goals, desires, or simply ideas. So for them, successful doesn't mean what other people think, the stereotype that people have about men's success. That's why when Emma Watson says that men don't have the benefits of equality either, I agree with her. Men also have to follow some sort of rules to be considered men. Again, she says, men are imprisoned by gender stereotypes. And I believe Japan is a country where we see it. If a man would rather raise his children, things become very complicated on the social level and the relationship level. A man in Japan should work. Question number 4 was, according to Emma Watson, if men are free from gender stereotypes, women will also be free. I wanted you to fill out the missing words. So the two missing words were sensitive and strong. Sensitive means when you can be emotional, when you're not afraid of showing your emotions, and to start with, feeling your emotions. And also strong, meaning being able to, even if you have strong emotions, you can still be facing the difficult times in a strong way. Question number 5. Instead of perceiving gender as two sets of opposing ideals, that is, one set is man and it has certain characteristics, and the other set is woman and it has a set of characteristics, Emma Watson recommends to perceive gender on a spectrum. So here I have used a gray scale in trying to explain to you what she means, right? Instead of having, let's say, here woman as the white and here man as the black, allowing that men and women are actually between the two extremes, right? That maybe woman has very strong characteristics that would be associated to men, but she's still a woman, or the opposite, a man has characteristics usually associated with women, but no, he is still a man. Question number 6. According to Emma Watson, how should we define ourselves? And this is for me one of the most beautiful claim she makes. She says that we should define ourselves by who we are instead of by what we are not. And that for me is something I hear a lot in Japan and makes me quite often sad. I wish people would focus on who they are instead of who they are or what they are not, because usually this means it's the ideas of other people that you are not, and you shouldn't have to follow what other people wants you to be, but just be yourself. So Emma Watson concludes her speech saying something similar to, if we can break gender stereotypes, people can be a complete version of themselves. So people can be who they are. And for her, both men and women should feel free to be sensitive, and let me add, strong. Because of what Emma Watson said during her speech, such as men don't have the benefits of equality either, men are imprisoned by gender stereotypes, and both men and women should feel free to be sensitive and strong, I have accepted that the He for She campaign is a good campaign with a bad name. To fight gender bias for me is to fight for the rights of all sides. I think we need to think in terms of human beings instead of gender, skin color, race, religion, sexuality. We are just human beings. My goal is that we would stop seeing each other as separated